him down.
If, like me, you find Star Wars to be a silly piece of entertainment best consumed with popcorn and fizzy drinks, I think you will really enjoy Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. It is the rarest of things, a Star Wars game that captures the energetic fun of the films without getting too bogged down in all that lore. It's quite a hard vibe to pin down, but I think it's what you feel every time you parry a laser beam back into a stormtrooper's face, or the way elite warriors arrive like they own the place and then you force punt them into a hole. Or how you kill an ATST and then a tiny angry man climbs out like the world's worst Kinder Surprise toy and you kill him too. Maybe it's there in the way stormtroopers commentate on the action,
I can't hit him.
stating the bleeding obvious, just like in the films. Or it's the moments you turn a corner and stop to gawp at a vast fantasy structure straight out of a Ralph McQuarrie sketch. The only area it immediately looks a bit wrong is with the rather sickly Wookiees. They look like tatty, moth-eaten costumes to me, and they know that they look a bit too. I mean, look how sad this one is, and this one is so bummed out he threw himself into an industrial fan. All of this stuff, ignoring the Wookiees, combines into a game that doesn't only look and sound like Star Wars, which is something we've seen plenty of game makers do before, but moves and feels like Star Wars too. Question is it enough to help disguise a few rough edges in the game that underpins it all? Well, that's what we'll find out in this video. Oh, you're watching Rock Paper Shotgun, by the way. I would use Jedi mind tricks to get you to like and subscribe, but I hope that you'll do it of your own free will. We've also partnered with Displate, who make fancy metal posters. There's a link to our poster store in the description, everything from Red Dead Redemption designs to Star Wars itself. And if you do buy anything, a bit of that money comes back to the channel. I promise not to spend that money on microtransactions, mainly because Jedi Fallen Order doesn't actually have them, which is another tick in the good game column. Now, onwards. Let's start with the Force. The main thing Fallen Order gets right is the more measured use of those magic powers, something the game justifies by having an amnesiac hero, Cal Kestis, gradually remembering his basics. This allows Respawn to trim down the Jedi trick playbook to just pull, push and slow, and limit their use with energy that is refilled by landing hits. Being stingy with the Force powers makes them feel a bit special again, which is something the Force Unleashed got really wrong back in the day. An unleashed Force is an undisciplined Force, and much of the fun in Fallen Order's combat comes in knowing when and where to use these powers for great results. Some enemies reveal special weaknesses to surgical application of the Force, like yanking out a frog's tongue with a pull, or pushing an ancient robot's battery core out of its body. I'd like to have seen a few more of these specific Jedi takedowns, but even without them there's plenty of room for playful tricks, like using stormtroopers as bullets and then tossing them away like an empty bag of crisps. You never have so much power that these tricks become repetitive, although the game does sometimes throw you a crowd of basic stormtroopers to destroy with ease, which is a nice burst of power fantasy. Another benefit of more streamlined powers is that it handles comfortably on mouse and keyboard, although you should remap dodge to a third mouse button. I recorded all of this with the recommended controller, but either is fine. And then of course outside of combat, you've got powers contributing to some navigation challenges. I'm a big fan of pulling ropes into my outstretched grip, and there are some surprisingly well thought out puzzles. Shunting around balls and playing with magnets is a bit Tomb Raider, but it makes for a nice break from all the chopping. Speaking of which, Fallen Order offers a suitably flashy take on lightsabers that's big on parrying and then finishing enemies off with a fancy flourish. You can block any move apart from the big red flashing ones that you have to dodge. It's all very reminiscent of the older God of War games, which is unsurprising given that Fallen Order director Stig Asmussen directed God of War 3. I've always loved a good parry system. It gives you a lot of bang for your buck from a single button press, and so it is here. Effortlessly chewing through a platoon of stormtroopers feels like pure Star Wars. I particularly like the way the different difficulty tiers adjust the parry window and are very open about that fact. If you've played third-person action games before, you'll probably want to bump it to at least Jedi Master to feel any kind of bite, but I love that more inexperienced fans, maybe kids who just like Star Wars and fancy a bit of Jedi action, can extend that parry window and pull off Obi-Wan Kenobi moves straight out the box. Charging through on story mode is the closest thing you'll get to a playable Star Wars film, which will be enough for some fans. There is a bit more to the action than simple parries, however, with both Cal and stronger enemies having a stamina meter that needs to be drained to break their block. This has been likened to Sekiro's posture mechanic in the way you keep pressure on to wear attackers down, but it is a much gentler version. I only really noticed stamina in a couple of intense boss fight duels. Regular enemies are so easily broken with parries and a couple of hits that you never feel anything close to the tension you get in a From Software fight. You certainly can't make many mistakes on the Grandmaster difficulty mode, but the speed of your moves and Cal's general nimble-footed style has none of the weight that gives Sekiro its specific drama. It's not a knock against Fallen Order, more of a reassurance that if you don't like Soulsborne style games, you can still have plenty of fun with this. Weirdly, Fallen Order does borrow a couple of other ideas from Software. You have a limited supply of health boosters carried by your droid friend, and there's a checkpointing system that sees enemies respawn when you rest at meditation spots to regain health and restock those injections. My only beef with the health injections is that the animation is stupidly long and easily interrupted, which can be a hassle. As for the respawning meditations, they're a clear lift from the Dark Souls bonfire, and one I don't fully understand. For most of the game you are powering forwards from checkpoint to checkpoint, so all the respawning is happening behind you. It's only when you come back to levels to clear them of their secrets that you find yourself spending more time there, but bringing enemies back to life seems less troubling at that point, as you are now more powered up. Again, it's not bad, just slightly odd. In much the same way that Fallen Order has the shape of Sekiro's posture system, but a much gentler version of it, so it is with the way that you lose XP when you die. As in FromSoft games, you have to return to the scene of your demise to get the XP back, but you only have to land a single blow on the enemy that killed you, letting you leg it away afterwards. Again, it feels slightly torn between being a more edgy action experience and wanting you to tear forwards on a jolly Star Wars romp. It's definitely better at the latter. Another thing it shares with Dark Souls is that Metroid-y design where levels are basically giant warrens full of paths that loop back round to reveal handy shortcuts. Fallen Order wears its Metroid inspiration on its sleeve, however, being quite open about obstacles that can only be beaten with new powers, and a map that handily shows you where you can and can't go at any given time. Normally, I don't like it when Metroid-style games spell out their gear gating too clearly. I like to return to locations and discover how my moves have transformed them. But the levels here are so sprawling that having a few green pointers on the map isn't too bad. The game also does a nice trick of having you return to most planets twice during the story, so as you push deeper into their second parts, you have a natural excuse to collect all the secrets you couldn't access the first time. I'm actually really surprised there hasn't been a Star Wars flavoured Metroidvania before, at least one that I can remember. The power arc of these games, of a flimsy avatar gradually accruing a massive arsenal, is so perfectly aligned with the traditional arcs of all three Star Wars trilogies. They are all stories about mastering the Force. Admittedly, there's no moves here that will surprise you. It's all wall runs, double jumps and swimming that are genre staples. But the constant pacing of new powers through the 20-hour campaign is neatly handled, and there's definitely fun to be had by going back to planets and seeing the landscapes bloom out with new moves. Between this, Control and Supraland, 2019 has been a really good year for the 3D Metroid alike. This isn't to say that it's perfectly handled, of course. While Fallen Order justifies re-exploring certain areas, when it comes to mopping up every last secret, there's a huge amount of backtracking that could have easily been cut down with fast travel. Having to battle through the same fights and solve the same environmental puzzles just to reach one box you missed early on is not a lot of fun. I mean, you've already proven you could pass these challenges once, so the second or third time is quite boring. I'm also not sold on what you are collecting. Outside of a couple of health and force upgrades and some genuinely useful health vials, the meat of the backtracking is to collect a baffling selection of decorative ponchos for Cal, because nothing gets my pulse racing like waterproof clothing, or cosmetic changes for your lightsaber or droid, which you can barely see due to their tiny size on screen. I mean, look at the level of customization you get for a lightsaber. Everything from the base metal to ornate engravings, and all for a weapon that is masked by a hand on screen. I'd understand if there were stat buffs for different builds, but it's purely the look of the thing. The whole system is lost on me. There's also loads of memory echoes that act as the obligatory audio logs or fill out backstory, but the writing is so dry and obvious that they hardly feel like a treat. On the plus side, if this means keeping the lore out of the main story, which it largely does, then it's probably a price worth paying. Speaking of story, I've mainly skipped over it because I feel like that's what Respawn did too. I mean, there's a quest for a thing, and villains in dark capes, and people wrestling with the light and the dark. I mean, come on, it's Star Wars. Many jokes have been made about what a non-entity Cal Kestis is, but I think that overstates how interesting Star Wars characters normally are. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Look at this lot. You've got a glorified dog, an English guy, some cowboy type fella, and this lady who's basically a walking billboard for Cinnabon. I know people love them, but let's not pretend they're anything more than cartoon doodles. Cal is just a man that holds a lightsaber and wants to do good things, which is basically Luke Skywalker.
Okay.
No, you can ignore the story completely and still have a good time. It's really just an excuse to visit giant temples on a series of gorgeous planets. In between, you'll do lots of Uncharted style climbing, you'll solve some light Tomb Raider style physics puzzles, which again are livened up with some fun force power solutions, and you'll enjoy a couple of mad boss fights that spill out into huge action scenes, just like they used to do in God of War. It's very easy to see the inspirations in Fallen Order. It's like every AAA third-person blockbuster of the last decade mashed together and given a Star Wars skin. But then what was A New Hope if not a giant mashup of pop culture things that George Lucas likes? Pulp sci-fi, a bit of Tolkien, the films of Akira Kurosawa, and the appeal of Star Wars is that it takes many enjoyable things and mashes them into something more, and sometimes that is enough. And if that doesn't sound like enough to justify the £50 asking price, which is pretty steep for 20 hours, you could do what I did and pay £15 for a 1-month EA Origin Premier subscription on PC, and immediately cancel the sub. I easily got £15 worth of fun from Fallen Order, and you'll comfortably finish it in under the month you have. Hopefully that's given you an idea of what to expect from Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, a game I had a very low expectations for, but came out rather impressed. Of course, I'd love to hear your reviews in the comments, and if you have any questions about what I've covered, or not covered, I'll happily answer them. And thanks again to Displate for sponsoring the channel, and please do use the link in the description to check out our Displate store. There's over 500,000 designs, and Displate's unique metal posters are built to last and use a magnet mounting system that doesn't involve drilling into your walls with power tools, which is always good. And not only will you be supporting the channel, but you'll be supporting the environment. For every Displate sold, 10 trees are planted. I hope you enjoyed this review, and if you did, please do subscribe to the channel for more like it, and check out our other recent review of Red Dead Redemption 2, or our roundup of the best Star Wars games on PC. We should probably add Fallen Order to that list. Thanks again for watching, and I'll hopefully see you again soon. Bye for now.